Well, joining me now in the studio is Anastasia Lavrina, host of Inside Politics and Frontline here on A News. Anastasia, welcome. Always great to have you with
Thank
here
you.
in the
Thank you for
studio.
having me.
Now, Pashinyan says he wants to repair ties with Russia after those trade restrictions hit Armenian goods. What do we actually know about how serious this row has become?
Well, indeed, there is a serious concern on what is happening between two countries, Armenia and Russia. Within the last half a year, I will say, we can see how many difficulties appeared in the bilateral relations, specifically after Armenia's official declared its willingness to have more pro-European foreign policy and the willingness to have European Union integration. Then recent visit of the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. And actually, that was the first such a level of visit of the European institutional representative to Armenia after Nikol Pashinyan won the election and secured the majority for himself in the parliament. And what's happened now, it's the first official foreign visit prime minister is taking, and it's happening in Russia. In this meeting, as it's already been said, he met with Mikhail Mishustin, and it was highlighted that yes, Armenia is willing to have more, let's say, uh, better relations with Russia, but he also stated that there is a difficulties two sides have to overcome. The reality is that Armenia is trying to balance understanding that now it cannot stop all the relations with Russia, but at the same time understanding that Russia will not accept its if Armenia have more let's say, more pro-European integration as it's happening at the moment. Armenia is not that much strong, and it cannot have more or less balanced policy. It has to choose. It was stated by President Putin during the meeting with Nikol Pashinyan some months before. Armenia has to decide whether it wants to be a member of Eurasian Union integration or it has to be more pro-European oriented, meaning that it will do its best to become a member of the European Union. But for Armenia, it's important to have some guarantees. European Union, of course, saying, as Ursula von der Leyen during her visit to the South Caucasus stated that Europe is willing to support Armenia in the policy of diversification and even helping Armenia to overcome those difficulties which is happening due to the restrictions imposed by Russia. Because Russia, yes, imposed some restrictions for the goods, vegetables and fruits which is being imported from Armenia. And for Armenia, it's important to find the alternative market, but it's not easy time. It's not so easy procedure to change everything and to, let's say, change the directions of the Armenian products to the European markets. As it was stated again by the Ursula von der Leyen, there will be some simplifications for Armenia to have this diversified policy, but it will take time. So now I think what Nikol Pashinyan is doing, he's taking the time. He's trying to win some time, showing to the Russian Federation that yes, Armenia is still willing to have more, let's say, prosperous relations. It still wants to be a member of Eurasian Union, but it's still at the same time willing to have more pro-European integration, balanced policy until the time while Armenia will be strong enough to say its own words in the relations, whether it's with Europe or with Russia.
And now on those restrictions, Russians officially are saying that it's due to regulations, standards, but the timing is, of course, hard to ignore. Um, is it this European course that's making this appear much larger than a trade dispute?
Absolutely. Armenia is openly stating that it wants to be a member of the European Union. It's developing its defense cooperation with the NATO member countries. It's signing the agreements with the countries like France to import the defense capabilities and defense equipment. It was demonstrated during the parade in Yerevan in May. So, but at the same time, it's saying that we want to still be a member of Eurasian integration. Um, it's impossible for Armenia to keep these both directions. It's not strong enough, as I already said. This economy, it still depends much on the cooperation with Russia. And whether it's Armenia is more important for Eurasian Union, or it's Eurasian Union more important for Armenia? That's a big question. Yes, of course, Russia still win if it has more balanced and prosperous relations with Armenia. And of course, Russia doesn't want to lose its partner in the region of the South Caucasus. If we see the dynamics, there are three countries in the South Caucasus. You know, it's yourself, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Armenia. And among all of these countries, Armenia is the closest partner, strategic partner for Russia when it comes to energy cooperation and economic integration and cooperation, all of these processes. So for Armenia, it's a very difficult balance. It's a very difficult, and it's easy to say, to make a political statement that Armenia is willing to have pro-European integration. But from the real perspectives, how quick this procedure may take place, how exactly Armenia is willing to decrease the level of its dependence on Russia and have more prosperous relations with the European Union. The Russian military base is in Armenia. The energy prosperity and energy security of Armenia still depends on Russia, despite the fact that it has the intentions to decrease the level of dependency and economic cooperation, which I already mentioned. So what Nikol Pashinyan is doing at the same time, and I guess it's a right decision, he's trying to develop the regional cooperation. That's exactly what Azerbaijani President, His Excellency Ilham Aliyev, has been talking for many years, I will say, explaining the reality in the region itself, that the future of Armenia will much more depends on its, let's say, on its pragmatic cooperation with the regional partners like Azerbaijan and Turkey. And just remember, recently Nikol Pashinyan himself stated that he wants to have economic cooperation and energy cooperation, because he is understanding his energy independence and energy diversification will much depends on how quick the borders will be opened with two countries in the region, with Azerbaijan and Turkey. When Azerbaijani experience will be also beneficial for Armenia, and how soon Armenia will be able to join the existing energy pipelines in the region, or probably working on the new projects like the Middle Corridor or Zangezur Corridor, or how it's being also called Trip Corridor. In Yerevan, there is a clear understanding that many countries in the region, European Union and also United States, is willing to see these transport arteries to be developed in the region. Donald Trump himself is paying particular attention on the development of the infrastructure in the region of the South Caucasus. And Ursula von der Leyen, in her official statement in Baku, said that Europe is willing to, and even willing to invest and to see the development of the transport integration in the region of the South Caucasus. So for Nikol Pashinyan, for his country, it's very important to work more intensively on the development of the relations with the regional partners. And from this perspective, we are coming to the key question: how soon Armenia will be able to sign a comprehensive peace agreement with Azerbaijan, meaning that how quick it can have a constitutional changes to remove any territorial claims against neighboring countries, against Azerbaijan. Then the borders will be opened. Armenia will join the global initiative, will get a status of a transport and energy hub in the region as well. So for the first time in its modern history, Armenia will become a transit country. So it will indeed benefit and will improve the economic capabilities of Armenia, and it will help Nikol Pashinyan and his government to have more pragmatic and more balanced policy when it comes to whether it's Europe or Russia.
And Anastasia, do you believe that Yerevan will try to balance between the European Union and Russia until such a time that such regional cooperation can be pulled off?
It has no other option. Indeed, we have to be realistic about what is happening. Europe may offer money, its support, its the visit which we can say is happening, but from the real perspective, from the real situation, what we see today, Armenia is still too much dependent on Russia. And the largest Armenian diaspora is living in Russia. I mean, those who are still sending the money to the relatives who are staying in Armenia. Armenia is still in much dependence from the economic and energy perspective, as I already said, and the military base of the Russian Federation is in Armenia. So for Russia, it's important to keep Armenia in its own influence in the region, because of those difficulties which is still existing with Georgia. Uh, uh, the dynamics is that Russia is willing to see Armenia in its sphere of influence. It's not ready to allow Armenia to be more independent. And Armenia is still not strong enough to be independent from Russia. So it will take time. And yes, we do remember what's happened with Georgia. It's so many years are taking place on the ground while the discussions, negotiations is happening with the European Union. But in reality, Georgia is still not a member of European Union. There is a still number of countries who are waiting. And remember how many decades Turkey was willing to become a member of the European Union. So for Armenia, from the real perspective, what we see today, there should be a more technical approach. If Armenia wishes to send its products to Europe, then how exactly it's planning to have it? Through Georgia or through Turkey? In order to do it from Turkey, then it has to open the border with Turkey to have more real cooperation. Then the transport links, then the reliability of the products, let's say the fruits and the vegetables which is being sent to Russia, it takes much less time rather than it's the same to be sent to Europe. And even if Europe is ready to, let's say, sponsor the projects, to send the money, to cover the financial expenses, it will take years to make the real projects to be on the ground that will help Armenia to have this diversified policy. But from the other perspective, coming back to the region, as I already said, the real chances and the real perspective is the Zangezur corridor, because it's already United States that support that, it's Azerbaijan, it's China. As Zangezur corridor, it's an essential part of the middle corridor that is a part of China's Belt and Road. So the real perspective is in the region. And probably after the successful realization of these regional communications, that would be a part of the more significant projects that will connect Armenia with Europe. So from the real perspective, as for today, Nikol Pashinyan and his government has to balance. And taking into account that Russia is also willing to have Armenia. Remember how many times there were the statements made by the highest level officials in Russia that it will stop the cooperation, it will make sure that Armenia is no longer a member of Eurasian Union, it will impose the sanctions. How many months does this rhetoric continues? But until today, nothing happened. Only some restrictions to the imported goods, products from Armenia. No real consequences, meaning that Moscow is also willing to keep Armenia in the sphere of its influence, making the statement that yes, if nothing changed, there will be more serious concern for Armenia. And even during this meeting with Mikhail Mishustin, it was stated that yes, the willingness of two countries to overcome the difficulties, but the reality is that the difficulties are on the ground, and the countries have to work on that to make sure. By the way, for Armenia, for Russia now, Ukraine is more important directions to work on, taking into account all of those difficulties it faces, all of those challenges. By the way, just recently, Russian drone attacked the Sokar fossil fuels in a station in Ukraine, and it was a big concern in the relations between two countries, Azerbaijan and Russia. So what's happening in Ukraine now, it's the number one priority for Russia. Then, of course, what's happening in the Middle East, it will also have, and it already has its own consequences. And of course, for Armenia, Russia is trying to balance, trying to be in touch with the Armenian government to follow the developments, but it's not number one priority at the current level of the Russian foreign policy.
Great insight as always, Anastasia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for having me.